everybody.
We did in English, I see.
English, if we can.
Okay.
Because we have here student jury. If we can, is it fine for everybody if we keep the discussion in English? I hope so. Good morning again. Tomáš Procházka, the director of the play we have seen yesterday, just joined us, so we will start our discussion, our first discussion at the Setkání Encounter Festival. My name is Magdalena, and together with Rebecca and today also Pavel, we will lead you through this little morning session. So, okay, let's take the advantage of having Tomáš here, and maybe you will space to add something or present something or what would you like to share with us.
Well, it depends on what you mean. The play was opened exactly last year. Yesterday was the year from the opening night. It was a very interesting process, but in terms of rehearsing the actual thing or to explore the text itself, we worked with several physical practitioners. Some of it we remained. Some of that work remained in the final production. Some of the work we didn't use in the end. What else? I don't know. I guess you just ask a question and I'll try to, if you have any, of course.
Okay. How many times did you play?
We played. I think it was the 10th performance yesterday.
So
And there are two casts. So obviously, like two alternations, if that makes sense. This specific alternation played, I think in that combination for the first time. So it's like obviously they rehearsed together, but they never really engaged in the final in a performance at the time, because we had some. You know how it is. Something this one can, this one cannot. So we had to make a sort of like a combination of the alternation, and that was like an original alternation for the last performance.
yeah, I wanted to ask you about the text and how you work with it, because in your annotation you say that it's of course based on Shakespeare's Macbeth, but also that there is big influence of Heiner Miller.
Yes.
And also because we have seen Macbeth in 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is really, well, there must have been a lot of cutting. So could you tell us
we cut the text a lot, and we basically the way we try to cut it when we use a very in Slavic terms, a very old translation, because there is obviously a newer, more modern kind of language, and therefore for reasons to me yet unknown, I used the translation because I'm a translator myself, and I like that old translation because it resembles the translator Josef Kott. He worked in a way that the musicality of the translated text resembles the original Shakespearean text, and this is what I really like. So that's why I use the old translation, and obviously old translation means old words and more archaic words and monologues. So that is why we edited the text in some ways. And to Heiner Miller we worked. There are I think 3 monologues from Hamlet Machine used in the text for reasons that it goes on with the tagline of the play about bastards, that we try to give a portrayal of a bastard world, of a bastard company, of a bastard government, of a bastard natures, whether inside or outside. So this is what we got, and then we used some fragments from Faust as well when I tried to put back the character of Hecata, which in original Shakespeare is a very small scene where she's in, and based on our concept of the witches as the sort of like agents of chaos, that I really like the idea that there is something even worse than the witches, that there is something far more high up, so like a Big Brother thing, something like that. That is exactly why we used Hecate as a recorded voice, so that there is this kind of idea that there is something far worse somewhere where we cannot see it. And the text that she speaks is not Shakespeare. It's from Nag Hammadi manuscript, and it's a monologue. Those texts are collected works of found collected works of sort of like pagan rituals, pagan religions, and there is this kind of a monologue that it's described as a monologue of unknown godly person, a godly female person. This is exactly the title of the text, and that's why. And when we read it, we really liked it because it went along with the concept of Hecate, and that is why we used it in the end. And of course, the dialogue between her and the first witch, that comes from Shakespeare, which you could hear in a kind of way. So this is towards that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions in the framework of this presentation?
If you can go back to the yesterday performance, I think it was received rather in a cold way. Why is that?
Well, those reasons are many. Because we played it from the whole of the practical side. I think that we played it in a new space that we couldn't work with many scenes in a way we could work them out in our theater, and what I tried to do, because we had sort of some troubles with delays of trains, so we had so the time we could use in the space was cut for some major time, and that is why we tried to use it to work the scenes out as familiar to our space as it could be. So meaning that many of the the changes of the scene where someone exits and someone re-enters. It basically meant that when you and as an example, okay, so in our theater, you could use this kind of this kind of space. In this theater, you have to go down and go from the below floor and then exit on the stage. Of course, it's a rather practical thing, of course, but it all affects the thing. I mean, we are all from theater, so we know what are we talking about. And then, of course, I don't know. It's just the risk. It happens. It happens. It's never. You can't really rely on that. When you have 5 really great shows in a row and a really great reception of the audience, it just happens. It's a risk of theater. all have to take. First, for me personally, it was kind of surprising, but when I discussed it with one guy from Yamu, I think it was. I think in the end it was all for good reasons because it's kind of a I think as a director it's kind of a production that needs to be fully concentrated, that needs to be fully there with all your presence, and maybe of course maybe maybe if we have more time we could work with the space much more efficiently. If we would have this, we wouldn't have done that, and if maybe, etc. But it's in the end, I think it's really just the risk of I guess every production. So it's just like you never know who's in the audience. So we had I had this experience when we had performance of Miss Julie, and there's this ending of Christine speaking that religious kind of stuff, that our Lord, our Savior died, and it's all of a sudden it turned into for the audience it turned into a comedy. So because all of a sudden after all that sex, sadomasochism kind of thing, there's this religious theme, and it's like really. And we never realized that it could be actually funny for somebody, but it happened, and all of a sudden you have to play with it. And yesterday there really are some scenes that can be actually interpreted as funny, and but we never thought of them that way, But it's not like that. It's when we really thought about it, it's. That it is actually quite funny when she when the witch after the castration comes to see Macbeth, and he said, "Oh, there is blood on your face," and she's all screwed up with blood. That's actually quite funny. Yeah. it's like you don't say. Yeah, there is blood on my face. Not only that, there were many scenes like that we realized yesterday, and that is why we didn't take it as a disaster, but it was like a very interesting experience because I think that we stand by that performance. Each and every one of us, we like it very much. We like to play it. We like to get dirty in there, because we really get dirty in there. From me mixing all the blood and stuff, so to the actors. So this is something, yeah.
Yeah, don't you think the translation would have helped for
Definitely.
recognizing it?
Definitely.
So why wasn't it there?
It didn't seem necessary at first because of course it's Shakespeare's Macbeth. It's something that, with all due respect to everyone should have read at least once when he's in the theater, right? So there's this at least kind of a thing that this rings a bell. What's going on with that? What's going on there? And what's happening there? So that is why we didn't find the translation that crucial or necessary, because it's like because it's really like a known story. It's not something.
Was it the first time you played in front of the international audience? Or?
Yes. It was the first. It was the very first time.
So reaction?
I love the idea of Macbeth the comedy. Yeah, I mean, I can see how you could do it. The problem, of course, was the language. That actually we didn't know what you were doing with the text. I think that's the main problem for me. So therefore, it wasn't clear what the concept was really. And that's why I think that the cert titles for an international audience are really quite important, I suppose. I don't know. Well, did you think about that or not?
Well, obviously we thought about that, but as I said, it was kind of a deal that when we were considering, even now when we are organizing now the festival, we are asking for subtitles only for sort of like really exotic countries with authors that we have no idea that exist. And for stories that really need to be translated, and Shakespeare was for us, and even for me personally, something that if not the text all of itself, then at least the story gives you the hint what's going on. And that is why we because for example, when we are going in 2 weeks after the encounter, we are going to the Nancy Festival, and for example, they demanded subtitles. That they had this proposition in here. It was I didn't see the application form. I did that, but I suppose if we would have.
I suppose that ultimately it's for you to decide what you want the audience to know.
Yeah.
That's all. And how you do that, whether you do it in the program note or whether you have the cert title or whatever. That's all.
Yeah, that's the case in here.
Yeah, you can tell us later, like, how did it go in and see with the subtitles? Do they laugh at anything?
Do we have any reactions on the other side? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could say something about, because it says that you want to change the established traditional theatre, and I was wondering if you could say something about what it is that you wanted to challenge and how, what choices you made to challenge the established.
I understand. Thank you for that question. It's because Slovakia is a very realistic based theatre, very Stanislavski and very naturalistic, very realistic kind of theatre, and that's also when it comes to Shakespeare. That when you go and see Shakespeare in Slovak theatres, it's mostly historical costumes, historical set, and very faithful to the sort of like the old idea of how to make Shakespeare. And this is and even at our school, because before this, I remember when the Theatre Lab opened, there was, I think, 2 productions of Shakespeare.
It's a student theatre.
Our student theatre, the university theatre. We had 2 productions of Shakespeare. One was Midsummer Night's Dream, also an encounter, and then Richard III. And both of the productions were very strictly traditional. There was nothing like that would have been challenging in terms of new kind of views for the subject of the play and the themes of the play. And what I liked about Macbeth was that, and exactly why I chose Macbeth in the end, was that it's, by my opinion, it's the only tragedy that is playable by students, meaning that the entire ambition kind of thing about challenging one another and about being the top, the one, the best, and kill the others, to go through many dead bodies for your aim. That is I think one of the main themes that of the play that can be related to young actor. That it's all about the inner passion. That it is not, for example, King Lear, which is really top psychological kind of stuff, or Hamlet, or even Othello. And that is why I brought Macbeth. And in terms of the entire stage design and the costume design and the physical work that was done in the process, that's just that was exploring the themes with the stage designers, because when we were working, we worked on the visual side of the production for almost a year, and we were trying to. We for ourselves gave the sort of like a no that whatever we do, it must not be historical and not with historical costumes and not the witches being all kind of the things with these rashes all over the face. We were this is what we were trying to explore, and it was something that oh my God, it's going to sound arrogant, but that's not being done very often in Slovak theater, and that is why it had in the first way why it has such a positive reception of the Shakespeareologists and all of other ists in the field. So that's something that we were trying to challenge.
Have you seen a lot of different versions of Macbeth?
Yeah. We watched many, almost over 30 productions, including movies, including other adaptations of Macbeth. We were trying to have this. Of course, it now sounds very funny that it's that we brought all the other production, and yes, this is how they done it, so we must do it differently, so we must do it differently. But we were trying to explore how did other directors at the other stations approach those things that we wanted to explore ourselves, and we found many inspirations in work of Sławomir Kosecki, which in the end had done a workshop for the actors. And many inspirations, mainly in the PBS adaptation with Patrick Stewart. I don't know if that rings a bell. Which the interpretation was very interesting in terms that Patrick Stewart was an old Macbeth. That this was something that was very interesting for me as a director, and that is why I chose that because Macbeth is used to be played by this kind of sort of like a macho man, and this is why I chose two guys that are basically extremely skinny, and that they don't have this kind of an idea of a man, great man who can really fight for himself. These are things that where we found inspirations and inspiration, and then of course there was a lot of music, not necessarily Verdi's Macbeth, but mainly work of Wagner, very much of Bosch's paintings and these kind of stuff.
We have another reaction.
Sorry, I'll just say two things and I'll shut up. I really do like the idea of playing with Shakespeare, though. I think it's really important that you do tear into it and do what you can with it. And then the other two things I'm going to say is that I was talking to some people last night. The problem we have in the UK with Shakespeare is we deal with that language, which most people don't understand. And so any dealing with Shakespeare in the UK is about trying to unravel what the hell that language is about. And we don't have a great tradition of playing Shakespeare, to be honest. You know, not like say Bob Wilson or anybody else would tear into this. So I think it's great to have done it. And the other thing I wanted to tell you, do you know that it's bad luck to mention the title of the play?
Yeah. We have.
So you don't talk about it. You talk about the Scottish play, and it's not Macbeth, because Macbeth bad luck. And I just wonder whether you had the same thing here or not.
We had the same thing, and we had very much many problems when we had the final week prior to the opening night, where many things happened. That a girl twisted her ankle. All of the others, for example, my classmate, who is a director in Hungary, he was very scared to go played somebody in the Hungarian production, and in the final week, one lighting brother fell and killed the actor that played the best. So that is why he had so much respect. So this is true even outside.
So you have to stop using the word.
I'm kind of used to it, you know.
So yeah, someone
May-
would be.
It's just that we need to go because
Yeah.
we're going to see your show for 10 minutes, not to go on and wait for the
Yeah, whoever needs to leave to which main marker. But did we have a question there?
Yeah, my apologies for coming late. I live 5 minutes, I live where Professor Witz is living in the same hotel. We're 5 minutes away from here, and it took me 25 minutes to find. But although I have been in Brno 5 times, so I'm just a stupid professor. But also from England, I'm from the University of London. I want to say first, I have seen your school many times, and I think the best thing about the performances by your school always, the acting is very simple. I mean, in the best way, you know. Many actors that you see in many productions, professional and student, are acting. And we never see this from your school. I think that's very, very good. Especially with Shakespeare, because in England, if I say to my students, okay, we are going to do some acting, Shakespeare perhaps, or, you know, you are actors from the Royal Shakespeare Company. Now, show me how the Royal Shakespeare Company will do this. It may not always be fair, but they will say, if it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. You see, it's rhetoric. It's not acting. But that's the way, if you are a lot in professional Shakespeare companies, sometimes this pattern is fallen into. And I don't know your translation. I know one very good Czech translator. Is it a Slovak translation?
Yeah, that's
Okay. So, but I thought that the way that was speaking the text in Slovak, in my ears, sounded very vigorous, sounded very to the point. And to me, however you do Shakespeare, you can whisper Shakespeare, or you can, you know, do it, or you can make it like television drama, which I don't think is such a good thing. But a lot of actors you see in England, either they will do the one thing, which is Shakespearean acting in English, or the other thing, which is television drama, make it all sound. But you know, there is a way, I think, to make it very, very simple and very, very poetic at the same time. The best actor I ever saw, sorry, this is a long comment, but the best actor I ever saw doing this is Mark Rylance, who now is one of the great actors in Britain. He's the Ian McKellen for today. I don't know if you know Ian McKellen from X Factor or whatever, but he's the great Shakespearean actor. Mark Rylance, you will see in the next 20 years, he's about 50, but when he was 24, he played Hamlet very quietly. He didn't seem to be, you know, and it was a very big audience at Royal Shakespeare Company, students, 500 students, 500 older people, and everybody listened to every word because he had a natural sense of the poetry. It's different when you do it in another language, but I felt there was a poetic speaking. I thought your acting generally was very good. These are my comments, then it's a question. And I thought you have very good actress playing Macduff, but I have a question about that. You have a very good actor playing Macbeth. Some of the other actors, I think, weren't so clear in what they were doing, but they all looked good on the stage, moved well. You moved it. I thought, you know, visually it looked very good. I liked the idea for the design, the scenography, etc. I thought, now you tell me if I'm wrong, because what I'm interpreting, I know the play. I have some questions. Okay, so why the sand? I think I know. I think I have my own answer. But if you have the sand, why also the ash, the smoke in the beginning, the powder? Mm-hmm. Because I thought if you're going to use one very powerful element, like the sand, use it all the way through. Or if you're going to use the powder, which I liked, use only the powder. Now, please tell me if all these questions have been asked before.
No.
Tell me to go home. But you see, I think that is a problem for a director. You need to think about it because for me, it's talking about ash. It's talking about everything is chaos and everything is descending to sand, to ash. But then I would like to see the whole stage ash, no sand, no powder, one element for me, because I think it's a very good idea. I think I'm very interested in what you say about gender, about male, masculine and feminine, but I think there is sometimes a problem when you start dealing with gender in these plays because the culture from which Shakespeare comes is very misogynistic. It's not necessarily that Shakespeare hated women, he didn't, but the patriarchal culture in Shakespeare's period is full of racism and it's full of misogyny, and if you just look at the worst play is The Taming of the Shrew, but the audience, not Shakespeare perhaps, but the audience are happy that the woman gets told, you are the second, you are the servant in The Taming of the Shrew. In the same way as there may be many people in the audience who from their religion will believe it's the woman's fault, the witches are women, and witches were real people in Shakespeare's time, it's the woman's fault that Lady Macbeth does this, and that the witches are in control of Lady Macbeth. So Macbeth is defeated by women. I think if you do that today, if that is what the audience perceives today, it's not a progressive way to do the play. So I'm a little bit worried because I think the interesting idea would be to see how the men become feminized in a sense. But then I would like to see, personally, how the women are strong but not savages. I got that from your production. I liked very much like rugby. I call it rugby because I come from a culture where they play rugby, but like football without legs, everyone wrestling, yeah? I liked that to show for the war. I thought that was very brilliant. But I think then we need to see what is the female world. Is it just witches? And also, when you make women sexy on stage, I like sexy people on stage, men and women, but if you make women sexy and they become the objects, it's like advertisements for beauty on television, it's like, you see, and the danger is that women are seductive, because it doesn't matter if once in a while they are, but if you do it in this play, then it means it's all the fault of the women. This is very old Christian thinking from 12th century, from 10th century. It's not always thinking in all cultures, but in our Western cultures, it all goes. So when you do that with a play like this, you have to be very careful because it reinforces all the stereotypes which are primitive, which we are trying to get away from in our project. So I think it's not a criticism of you, but it's trying to give you a warning that when you do this, the audience reads that automatically, because it doesn't matter how much I try to be a feminist, although some of my feminist women friends, they say, you can't be a feminist, you're a man. But okay, I'm a man who is a feminist. If you do certain things with plays, with old plays, and I've thought a lot about this because, and I will shut up in a minute, but if you do with Othello, you see, it's a great problem today, especially in Britain. We have many different races in our country, many different cultures, many different ethnicities. Black people are a very important part of the British population, not in Czech Republic, but in Britain, in America, you see. So if you do Othello today, you see it is a play about how the black man was a savage, but converts to Christianity and becomes civilized, and then somehow, in love, in jealousy, the black man comes out again and he's a savage. So it says to a modern British audience, the black man will always be a savage, unless you question that in the production. And I see a lot of productions in Britain of this play, and they don't question it. I'm Jewish. I see a lot of productions of The Merchant of Venice, and the audience is going, yeah, he's Jewish, so he's a horrible man. Not because the director thinks that, but because unless you play the play in a certain way, and you can with that play, and similar with The Taming of the Shrew, the woman should not fight to be the boss. She must accept her place as second. Okay, so shut up. So my question to you is, how do you guard against this? Because I saw in Macbeth, in your production, I didn't see the strength of the women. I didn't see the men becoming feminized or gentle towards the end. I saw the women being the problem, because the women in your production, for me, seduced the men to become evil. And how do you deal with that?
Well, you had two questions.
The long ones.
The one long time ago was. Thank you for your comment. It was very good, very interesting. And to the first question, why the sand and why the whole circle kind of thing? The idea came from a painting by the. I can't think of the name of the author. I'm sorry.
Doesn't matter.
I'm sorry.
Later on, tell me, because I'm very interested. When you remember.
It's called the painting is called The Morning, and it's basically women being seated on a cracked wasteland with arms like that and facing the sky, and the idea for the sand came from that.
Mm-hmm.
That the sand represented in the main symbol of the sand was the cracked wasteland of the society and of the world, and then the cauldron of the witches, and as the center of this like sort of like a pagan circle that the witches used to manipulate the characters. So that's and to the powder. For me, the important thing was to give an idea that the witches really are from outside world, and that they are not from this, and that they are not human. That was my main aim, to dehumanize the.
But why did they put things on the actors, on the real actors? Because the actors were alive and they got this powder.
And why they got this powder? Because they as they came to Earth, and they wanted to sort of like do this kind of a social experiment with these group of people that they are going to be working with through the next 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's why all the powder, that's why all the powder in that, it's sort of like an identification thing, that okay, this is this one, this is this one, this is this
So they will become corrupted in some way.
Yeah.
But can you see, this is a teacher comment rather than a question now, but because if you see, in my view, you're a talented director, you have many ideas. If you give an audience two images that are similar, they will say, well, that and that. Because, you see, I read very powerfully the sand, not the way you intended, it doesn't matter, but I read, everything is turning to dust. So, for me, if you had just had powder, and the floor had been all powder, then I could have seen, when the witches did that to the men, they were going to gradually turn to dust, because their moral corruption is already there, and then everything, and then all the time, every time the sand, and then you can think, okay, it could also be ash, it could also be people in a Holocaust, it could also be, this is how we create this. You see, that's a much more powerful image for me than what you explain. Now, it doesn't matter, because what you explain can be very interesting as a starting point for you as a director, but what you create and what you created had a very powerful impact for me, do you see, and I think for other members of the audience, because you can't tell an audience, you must believe this about this image. They will associate with the image the way you associated with painting. They will, immediately. And to me, it's dust, it's sand, it's Auschwitz, it's the world we live in, it's the way we are killing people all the time in the world in wars, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And if the witches are not human, then that's fine, because they are forces inside us perhaps, or in our heads that are making us. That's great, you see. But you see what happens if you have too many? Then what happens is, I'm just the average audience, you see. I'm trying to understand, so I get confused, or otherwise, I think a lot of people in the audience, they just say, oh, it's just theatre. So it doesn't matter if I don't understand. But that's dangerous, you see. That's what happens in England all the time. And the English people say, oh, it's Shakespeare. So, you see, so it doesn't have to have a meaning.
understand it anyway.
Yeah, they don't understand it. So it's Shakespeare, you see. But oh, it was very exciting because the actors were, do you understand? But that's then the audience, they no longer have responsibility for making meaning. And you are doing this play because you said it's a play about bastards. And we are bastards in the way we live today still. And I see that. It's a very strong reference point to what goes on in Europe today and in the whole world, still going on. That's why I thought your sports fight, scrum, wrestling, was very good, because it shows this is to do, to me, with masculinity and the way men are always fighting and competing. But then I need to see from the production, I'm just saying, because I read your program, you see, I then want to see how is the feminine way a different way. If the men become feminized gradually, do you see, do they become gentler? Because women are not usually the ones who start war, it's men. So does it become gentler through the feminization? Or are the women, like Lady Macbeth, just becoming like men? Because Lady Macbeth is a very masculine woman, even though she may be a very sexy woman in a female sense, but she's also a very masculine woman in culture because she's fighting, she's strong, you see. So, okay, so this is about the gender. Okay.
And then that brings me to your to the second question: how do you guard towards all these kind of things? I think that the whole theme of and I'll try not to be elitistic in this answer, but I think that this is such a thin ice subject that it is very difficult to guard to what you said, because and it always depends on the culture and on the type of performance that you say. I say it with full responsibility for my performance. I know that the subject we decided to explore is a thin ice subject, that it can lead to which of course it's our fault, but it can lead to the idea that female are bad, long live the great evil women and all the poor men. Of course, it can lead to that because the play ends that way, and then the whole costume kind of thing, etc., etc. Of course, it can lead to that. But it can also lead with a deeper thinking, or maybe with a second viewing. My idea was that the no way it's better. It's not like that the female, that the female way is better, or the male way is better. Because my idea for the ending was that even though that Macduff in the end portrayed by a woman, becomes the king, my idea was not to bring a happy ending. My idea was to
I got it. That it will go on.
Yeah, that the world can go on only by self-destruction. And
do you really believe that?
I really do believe that the old world must die, so the new world can begin.
But where's the new world? We didn't see that.
We didn't see that because the old world is still here, and the old world must.
Do you think a Slovak audience would understand your point of view straight away?
Well, speaking for the reception, it was received in that way. Sometimes.
Okay. No, that's fine. It's just you see, because we have different cultural.
Noel
and I would see that in Britain, if you produce this even for young audiences, they would see it's a very nihilistic view of the world. They would see that what you're saying is even when a more feminine, even if she's not a woman, but she's a more feminine man, played by a woman who was a very good actor, even if she becomes the king, it will be no hope.
Yeah.
And in the 1960s, early 1960s, people like UNESCO did this with Macbeth and with his other Shakespeare plays. They did these already. They rewrote Shakespeare to show, no, there's no hope in the end. It's all going to be, every time it's a repeat, and it's a repeat and repeat of a cycle. But in our cultures, in France or I think in Germany or in Britain, we would read it slightly differently to you, because we've had a different history. But we would read your production as there's no hope ever. It can't, because if the men try, it becomes like this. If a more feminized man or a woman tries, it will also become like that. So I found it a very bleak, very no hope production. You see, in that way.
Yeah, and that was kind of an aim for the political side of Macbeth. That even I, as a citizen of Europe and a citizen of Slovak Republic, I don't see even the slightest blink of a light at the end of the tunnel that we are being assigned now. And
So why do you make theatre?
why
do you make theatre?
Because I do believe that theatre can light that light.
Okay. So can you show us one little light even from theatre at the end, or not?
You mean generally from?
Maybe in your view, this will force us to find our own light, huh?
Well, for example, because we all agree that Macbeth is a no-hope play. There was an opening night of brilliant performance by a director who is hosting here at Encounter Festival. Martin Cichlak directed Marx's Das Kapital, and it was made very in a performative kind of happening way, and it was a devised text using theories of neo-Marxism, of Marxism, etc. And there were some really ideas that my generation found waking up, like, yeah, let's do this and we can change it. And that's where he is naming all the problems that my generation feels, that yes, the old world must die, and not like and that it is not about waiting for them to die, but they must die, they must disappear for the new world to start.
That's an interesting idea, but because I'm a little bit older than you, I would say actually it's not a new idea, and it's also not a creative idea for me, because I've lived long enough to see a couple of old worlds die. The old world died, I wasn't there, but the old world died in 1945, completely. Half of Europe was killed. The old world died in 1918. A lot of people were killed. Half of people in Central Europe were killed. So those worlds have died, but we haven't replaced them with something better. So for me, a progressive way of thinking would be, what could happen when the old world starts dying? Because if you don't start a world when the old world is already dying, you're just saying what you say in the play. It's a cycle. Macduff will take over and be as bad as Macbeth. You see, maybe you believe that because you see it around you, and maybe your experience is worse than mine because you see it more starkly. You know, British people are a little bit protected from wars because although we lost a lot of people in the First World War and the Second World War, and in the First World War I think we foolishly killed a lot of our own people, but I don't think in the Second World War we did that. But in the First World War we did. But our country has never been invaded since the Normans, you see, so 1100. So we are a little bit protected from the war horror, even though a lot of our men have died in the war. So we have a slightly different perspective, but I understand. But I just ask you, because I'm very interested, what are young people thinking? If you do Shakespeare for the modern day, which is a good thing. What are young people thinking about how we can make the world better? I agree with you, art is one way you can.
And that's just on note for the experience. In Slovakia we about the old world stuff. I agree with you. The old world died after the Second World War, but yet here we are facing the same situation, exactly the same as in 1939 in Slovakia, because we had that, and that was some kind of a lighting at the end of the tunnel, because a communist party had a landslide victory in the last election, and the leader of the party was going for was one of the main candidates in presidential election, meaning that if he won, the entire that entire Slovakia would go way back to the 60s.
Yeah, well, you see, you had the Second World War, and then you had communism, and communism hasn't died. It's just gone underground in these countries, in Hungary, in Czech Republic, in Slovakia. That's my view. Did you see? So, in a way, you haven't killed it yet, and that's a different thing.
And that's why we started to kill. We started slowly to poison him.
Okay. So that's, in a way, this production is responding to that. That's interesting. But if you do this, so if you do this production outside Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, you see, then it would be very interesting, I think. If you take it ever to England or the States or France or Germany, I think what you should do is give us some signs or some key that we can understand a little bit more that the politics from which this production is coming is about communism died, but it didn't die, you see. Because Macbeth is the communist, Macduff is replacing, now what I understand, is replacing the communist, but Macduff will end up just like a communist. Yeah?
Yeah.
But we need that, did you see? Because then I think your production is politically very sophisticated. But I didn't get that from what I saw. Maybe Slovak audiences get it, maybe Czech audiences get it. Sorry, Magdalena.
No, I just wanted to ask if anybody from the audience wanted to react to this. But to be honest, being Czech, I didn't get the communist part either, but maybe it's just where we got now that maybe there are other things or other aspects in our life that are still influencing us. I mean, somebody can see the communism there, somebody can see the different problems of the nowadays society.
I think that that's exactly why I believe that now it's really the time for these kind of themed Shakespearean tragedies or historical plays. That now is the time to come back to them because it's really still happening, and in the same exact way as it was happening 500 years ago, and that's when you see, for example, Oresteia, and there you see a 2,000 years old play, and you just watch it. Oh my God, nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. That's quite depressing, and that's.
But if I believe that nothing can ever change, I may as well kill myself now. Because if what Aeschylus said in 400 BC is still true, and in some ways it is, I can kill myself, or I can go and live in some very nice part of England where we don't allow wars. Because one of the reasons the British are obsessed by keeping their army is because historically they have this feeling, no one ever conquered Britain, so we must have an army, because we're still an island. So they can have very bad time in Europe, but we will stay out. That's why we have, I think, a problem psychologically with being European, because we don't want. Sorry. Can I ask one question of the? I know if anyone is prepared to say, I'd like to know if any of the women here felt a little bit the way I did, that the production was misogynistic, or it didn't. Because I think people should be honest about these things, because I see a lot of situations in which women are sitting, and I see lots and lots of productions by many young men directors, old men directors, and the women are not represented in a female way.
Well, for me, for example, there was I didn't feel any bad or about being woman and watching this play, but for me there was the other way around also, that seeing the role of men today and the way that men are presented and the roles are very often being changed or not really defined, and with a lot of, also including the castration, which was very big moment on the scene, that I didn't feel it was the fault of women. I more felt that the men are not strong enough to stand for their rights. Maybe that it's turning the other way around, that there are no real men anymore.
But why was it so sexual? Sorry,
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
mean to. I don't want to be rude, but I'd like to just talk to the director if you have the time. But it's Magdalena, it's you're running this. So if people want to go now, but I'm just happy to go on talking a little bit if you want to. If the director wants
I don't know if any other girls would like to add anything, but yeah.
Could we have like last 10 minutes
Yes,
because we are having the
you have a show.
Yeah.
Now you have.
At the
Yeah, true,
moment,
at the
and
moment.
we need to make some preparation, and I need to.
Okay,
like,
no,
30 minutes.
let's stop now
You
then.
can-
Then I talk to you later in the party or something.
Okay.
I'm very interested because, you see, I think when someone does something good, it can always be better. Do you see? If
Yeah.
someone does something, it's dull, it's boring, so what? You see, then I don't care. But if someone is doing something interesting, I want to say, make it brilliant, make it good. You see, because you can make it, because so much is good in what you do.
Mohl jsem se ještě zeptat,
Yes.
Can we please keep it in English also?
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
tak
I have to learn
mne
Czech.
to príde hrozne zvrhlo, aby sme sa dva Slováci rozprávali po anglicky.
Okay, I can translate the question for you, so you can understand that.
Prvá vec, čo by som sa chcel opýtať, je ohľadom toho, že si hovoril, že chcel si vyhodiť toho Stanislavského z našeho divadla, a ja sa chcem opýtať, že čím si ho chcel nahradiť. Pretože ja som to z toho proste nevyčítal. Ja som tam videl len hercov, ktorí mi nejako rozprávali text, nejako recitovali, ale de facto som za tým nič nevidel.
So the first question is about the Stanislavski, how and why the intention of the director was to throw out the Stanislavski from the play.
Vieš, ono v podstate tá pointa bola viacej pracovať pracovať skrz...
Čiže nešlo tam o hereckú techniku.
Išlo viacej vlastne o schopnosť hercov pracovať s výtvarným znakom, pracovať s nimi výsostne ako keby... Bude to znie možno vulgárne, ale vyslovene ako s farbami, ktoré dotvárajú, vytvárajú obraz. To, že niektoré veci vyšli z toho viac, niektoré menej, to už je aj o...
viac alebo menej, na tomto konkrétnom vystúpení, o tom sa bavíme.
Hej, na tomto konkrétnom vystúpení, o ktorom sa bavíme, že to, že niektoré veci vyšli viac, niektoré menej, to je, ako si povedal, riziko toho.
Akože neviem, nakoľko v Bratislave som to nevidel, možno sa prídem pozrieť, ale proste tu nás som mal fakt pocit, že oni v podstate len čítajú Shakespearea a do toho je tam nejaká scenická akcia, ale nebola pre mňa akoby odmotivovaná z hľadiska toho textu, ak to myslím. Z hľadiska ich nejakého prežívania. Ja som z ich prejavu nepochopil, že Lady Macbeth je fakt zúfalá a snaží sa zotrieť si krku.
I don't know, because also that not everybody would understand. Could you also maybe, given the time schedule and everything, leave this discussion at some of the program activities or the parties?
Yeah, can I make one comment just to say I think Stanislavski should
Because
always...
I'm a bit scared that...
I think Stanislavski should always be thrown out with Shakespeare. It's not useful for Shakespeare, but it's another discussion.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt this, but given the time and that also not everybody can contribute to this discussion, if you can maybe see together the points to discuss. Yeah.
Každopádne, thank you very much and see you around.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much. still staying till the end of the festival, or and it's available for any? Thank you very much, everybody, and please get the keep it